You know how sometimes news stories, especially the really sensitive ones about social issues, can feel incredibly complex, almost overwhelming? Well, today we're going to try and cut through some of that. We're taking a deep dive into the recent developments around Diane Abbott. She's obviously a major figure in UK politics. Our goal here is to unpack the source material, give you the essential context, look at different viewpoints, and, the implications of her recent comments. It all kicked off again with a BBC Radio 4 interview just yesterday, July 17th, where she repeated something she'd said back in 2023. So let's get right into it. This core event, the interview yesterday. What exactly did she say that stirred things up again?
Right. So in that interview, Diane Abbott essentially doubled down on her 2023 comments. She drew this distinction again between racism based on visible characteristics like skin color and the prejudice faced by groups like, say, Jewish people, Irish people, or traveler communities, arguing their identity isn't always immediately visible.
Okay.
And what really stood out, I think, was when she was directly asked if she regretted those earlier comments, her answer was a very firm, no, not at all.
No, not at all. Wow, that's quite defiant, isn't it? So really standing by it, what happened immediately after that? What was the party's reaction?
Well, the Labour Party's response was very swift. Pretty much straight after that interview aired on the 17th, they suspended the whip from her. For the second time, actually.
Right, the second time.
Exactly. And they've launched a fresh investigation. So she's now sitting as an independent MP, alongside others who've lost the whip, like Jeremy Corbyn. Though it's important to add, party insiders are saying this is procedural, that the door isn't necessarily closed for her to get the whip back, depending on how this investigation goes.
Okay, procedural, but still, a second suspension, sitting as an independent. It really does underline how serious this is. And you mentioned this isn't just about Abbott in isolation. It sort of fits into a bigger picture under Keir Starmer's leadership.
Yes, absolutely. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Her suspension is very much seen as part of Keir Starmer's broader effort to enforce party discipline. Actually, in just 1 week, 5 Labour MPs lost the whip. It seems tied to Starmer wanting to show a united front, especially on things like welfare reforms and, crucially here, anti-discrimination policy.
5 MPs in a week, that does sound like a real crackdown. So Starmer's pushing for discipline, but presumably that creates friction, especially with maybe the left wing of the party. How is that tension playing out?
Oh, definitely. You've hit on a key point there. There are clear internal tensions. Some MPs, both moderates and those on the left, see this approach as perhaps a bit heavy-handed. They might view it as a sign of, deeper ideological splits within the party. And regarding Abbott, while she does have allies, quite vocal ones actually, it seems unlikely that support alone would stop her removal if this investigation concludes she's breached party standards.
Okay, so that's the internal party dynamic. What about the wider reactions? How has this gone down outside of just the parliamentary party?
Well, the reactions have been all over the map, really, which I suppose shows how complex this issue is. You've got Diane Abbott herself maintaining her position is factually correct. She's sticking to that idea of visible versus invisible dimensions of racism. And she's also suggested that, maybe the leadership is actively trying to push her out. Then, on the other side, you have the official Labour leadership line, Minister James Murray, for instance, insisting it's purely procedural. And Keir Starmer himself has been very vocal about discipline, framing it as essential for decisive governance and stating clearly there's no room for anti-Semitism in the party.
Right. And any other key figures weighing in?
Yes, Angela Rayner, the deputy PM, said she was disappointed and called Abbott doubling down a real challenge. She stressed the party has to tackle anti-Semitism head-on. Then you have groups like Labour Against Anti-Semitism calling for her resignation outright. But conversely, you also have figures like Shami Chakrabarti, Afsana Begum, Belrabir Wadi. They're backing Abbott. They point to her long history of activism and argue people should, actually listen carefully to what she's trying to say.
It really is a spectrum of views then. So pulling this together, what's the bigger picture here? What's the broader significance of this incident?
I think it really highlights a few things. It's definitely a test for Starmer's leadership, forcing a balance between free speech within the party, maintaining internal order, and projecting effective leadership. It also throws those ongoing divisions within Labour into sharp relief, doesn't it? Particularly on the left, concerning how discrimination issues are discussed and handled. And Abbott herself, being the mother of the house, a former shadow minister, her situation really embodies some of the generational and ideological tensions. Is she a valuable critical voice? Or is she a liability to party unity, Different people clearly see it very differently.
That sums it up well. Loads of complex factors at play. So looking forward, what happens next? What are the potential paths from here?
Well, the investigation is key, obviously. If she's cleared, maybe the whip is restored. If not, she could be sidelined further, perhaps even barred from standing as a Labor candidate again. That's a possibility. Then there's the impact on the party itself. Does this and other suspensions deepen the internal divides? Or could it, perhaps paradoxically, push Starmer towards finding some kind of compromise later on? It's hard to say. And finally, this whole episode just pours more fuel onto the fire of the bigger national conversation about racism, about identity, and how we should even talk about these things in public life. It raises really fundamental questions.
Okay, so the main takeaways from our deep dive today: a very prominent MP's comments on racism, her second suspension. It really spotlights Labor's internal struggles and just how difficult navigating conversations about identity and discrimination is in the public eye. And as you think about all this, maybe consider this question: how do political parties strike that balance between needing internal unity and discipline and allowing for open, sometimes difficult discussion on these really complex social issues? Something to ponder.